Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we have a very active weather pattern to talk about with big temperature swings and even severe weather and snow coming our way over the course of the next 7 to 10 days. So let's get right into it without further ado, taking a look at our precipitation as well as general frontal boundary trends over the course of the next 7 to 10 days. Notice here we have a ridge of high pressure sitting over here across the eastern United States that is keeping a lot of these areas very quiet at this time. Basically a wall from the western United States, which is active, by the way. We'll get to that in a second. And the eastern side, which is very quiet. All right. Meanwhile, this high pressure system is sitting here and it's all nice. This is dragging up a lot of moisture into the Great Lakes as well as even the Ohio Valley. Of course, not in the middle of this. There's like low dew points there. But on the western periphery of this ridge, like especially in southeast, you're feeling the mugginess. And even into the Ohio Valley, you're starting to feel the mugginess. And that's likely going to continue pumping in moisture, though it's still going to stay dry until we get this thing out of here. Watch what happens as we head in towards Saturday. All right, you see those lines starting to tighten up? You can tell that there's something going on. All right, a storm system is going to try to fight against the high pressure system. All right, like I said before, the perimeter of this extends very far to the west. It's going to get very breezy from areas like Texas all the way into Canada. You guys are used to this, but down here in the south, it's definitely going to be something. So definitely need to keep an eye on that. But notice here, low pressure system here that's probably going to flare up some scattered rain and snow showers in the higher elevations of the Rockies. And you notice as we put this into the daytime hours on Sunday, that storm system will very much blow up and head into Canada. You guys could have up to 50 mile per hour wind gusts if this is the case. And we are likely going to see probably a couple bands of snow perhaps across Idaho, Montana, as well as Wyoming, all while this high pressure system is still yanking up a lot of moisture from the Gulf, all right, while still keeping it extremely dry because we have sinking air. All right, these high pressure systems this time of year can bring up moisture, but like I said before, since the sun angle is so low, it can't really produce pulse afternoon thunderstorms like it does in the summer. So we're just building a wall of moisture at this point for these areas. Now you throw a storm system on top of that, especially as we head into Monday, we might need to watch out for some severe weather with this across areas like Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, back into the Great Lakes. I think some damaging winds, hail, and maybe even a tornado or two would be a possibility with that. And as we take it into the day on Tuesday, as this front continues to sag on south with cold air slamming into all of this moisture this high pressure system is yanking up, we're probably going to continue to see a severe risk across this area, or at least the threat of some very heavy thunderstorms, as well as maybe even some flooding training thunderstorms. So something to keep an eye on in that circled area. Down here in the tropics, we might get a little train of tropical bands of rain. Those will likely remain subtropical. However, there is a little bit of consensus that over the course of the next couple days, especially towards this weekend, something might develop in this area. So we're going to need to keep an eye on that. Very slim chance overall, but it's definitely something worth noting. Taking it into the daytime hours on Wednesday, though, notice here we have a Canadian high pressure system that's likely going to drop out of Canada. This is going to pull down very cold air on the eastern periphery of this, so this could reach the northeast. Look at the synoptic snow popping off in Canada next Wednesday, all right? That probably won't be in the exact place and, the exact way this is showing, but this is a general trend that you guys will be seeing some very cold air advection very soon across the Northeast, all right? Maybe not just Wednesday, but also Thursday. This is going to pour right in to the northeastern United States. Maine might see its first snow of the season. Meanwhile, over here in the western On plains, we will likely start to see some thunderstorms start to pop off as we have this Canadian high pressure system turn into a Great Lakes high pressure system as it starts to yank up moisture once again from the Gulf. All right, now just because I'm putting these arrows way up into Canada doesn't mean you're going to get 75-degree dew points as far north as the Great Lakes. That is definitely not happening. Maybe even 60s. But I will say low 60-degree dew points could definitely make it as far north as, you know, the Central Plains, Midwest, maybe the Ohio Valley. And if that does happen, we could see, you know, like I said before, some, you know, focal points for severe weather. But like I said, those storm systems will all depend on frontal placement as well as low pressure system strength in order to get severe weather, all right? And you notice as we put this really far into the future, how this model likes to spit out a very, very huge storm system with strong thunderstorms on the southern flank with very gusty winds. Overall, notice here the low way up here in the Canada region with the warm front extending here. Occluded front setup right here. That's going to be interesting for snow. And over here, a cold front. All right, like I said before, this is probably not going to happen since it's, you know, 288 hours out. But this is just a consensus that storm systems are going to be very, very common in this area over the course of the next 7 to 10 days. Or I shouldn't even say just this area. This entire area right here, all right? Almost the entire eastern two-thirds of the country, all right? I know it's quiet right now, but like I said before, when things start to get rolling, they're going to stay rolling for a while across this area. So definitely enjoy that area of high pressure while you can because it's not going to last forever. All right, folks, so let's take a look now at our temperature trends over the course of the next 7 to 10 days and beyond, all right? As we take it in towards late this afternoon, notice here, like I said before, this is all due to this ridge of high pressure bringing up very warm air. Look at this, almost 30 degrees above average in the circled area there across areas like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. In other areas of the country, though, if you're in this circle, you are at least 10 degrees above average for this time of year. All right, high pressure system is literally sitting right here. We have the high pressure system right here, which, by the way, is not really doing anything at the moment. It needs to strengthen to bring up moisture. But, I mean, it is hot across these areas, all right? Even if you're only like 5 to 10 degrees above average, for instance, across areas like, you know, the South, you know, the Rockies, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, even the Northeast, you are definitely feeling that, all right? It is not supposed to be 75 degrees as far north as Michigan this time of year, all right? They're supposed to be in the 50s, as a matter of fact, and we're not seeing that, all right? We're actually seeing this massive October heat wave, and this looks to continue into the weekend across the same areas. 15 degrees above average across the Great Lakes region. There's a lot more widespread 30 above average degree temperatures or 30 degree above average temperature readings. So that's definitely going to be something that's going to really be felt. And you notice here as we head in towards Sunday, there's your strong cold front, all right? You can see the cold air coming in like a hammer behind this, all right? Or for at least some areas, all right? Especially the mountains, you guys will be feeling this. You guys will have snow around on Sunday in the mountains, but this is crashing into some very warm air ahead of this, all right? I mean, you have it as far north as Canada and as far east as Maine, all right? Almost 15 to 20 degree above average temperatures. And as that front runs into that, like I said before, that's probably going to create severe threats, all right? Especially across this area where I think all hazards have an opportunity across areas like the Central Plains back into the Great Lakes. This is where your cold front is as we head in towards this time frame, all right? Even though it's slow, it is a very powerful one, and it will be felt if you're on the back side of that, all right? And notice as we head in towards Tuesday, I mean, you still have warm temperatures ahead of this, and your moisture is just going to be very ridiculous for this time of year, especially way up here where areas like Ohio Valley back into the Northeast are going to see almost 70 degree dew points in some areas. And on the back side of that front, notice here, almost 10 to 15 degrees below average. So we're possibly talking about a 30-degree temperature drop for some areas, all right? At the least, it'll be a few degrees below what it was, all right? And that is going to be for a few amount of people, all right? A lot more people are probably going to see probably at least 10 to 15 degree temperature drop over a just light few degree drop, all right? Because notice here as we heading towards Wednesday, 10 to 15 degrees above average ahead of it, 5 to 10 degrees below average behind it, all right? That is a big temperature drop, all right? Notice as this front continues sagging south on Wednesday, this is a big, gradient here, all right? I can't think of the word, sorry, guys, but I mean, this is going to be a big gradient, all right? From the warm air to the cold air coming in on the backside, we're probably going to get some fall severe weather pretty far to the north, so definitely be ready for that. And that cooler air lingers around for a while. Like I said, around the 9th and 10th, we might see a big shot of cold air across the northeastern United States that might bring areas like southeastern Canada and Maine first snow of the season. But you notice as we head in towards the 11th time frame, the warm air starts to build back and it wins out once again as we head in towards the middle of the month before we get an even bigger sweeping cold front, or at least signs of one, as we head in towards, the second and third week of October. Any of these areas are definitely at big risk for some big temperature swings over the course of the next couple weeks at least, so be ready for it. And last thing before we log off of this forecast is our tropical weather outlook. And it is October after all, so we do still have some juice in the Atlantic. Notice here we have a depression here, or at least a invest trying to form across areas of the Atlantic as it moves into a more favorable environment, as the National Hurricane Center highlighted here. This is probably going to turn into a tropical system, and it might turn into a hurricane in the days to come. So I'm putting you guys on alert if I circle you in the Dominican Republic, the U.S. Virgin Islands, even up to Cuba and maybe even Florida. Definitely want to keep an eye on forecasts over the course of the next 7 days. All right, folks, that will end it for this video. I'm happy that I got to make a video with you guys. Finally, once again, it feels like it's been forever since the weather's been so quiet and I've been so busy, but thankfully I am back and things are on my side. Time is on my side. Scheduling is on my side. So thankfully for that. But anyways, I'm Severe Storm Filmer. I will see you guys in the next one, and it will be a very short time.